My name is Ethan Rutherford. I'm a writer. I've written 2 short story collections. I'm currently at work on a long novel, and I teach creative writing at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And what's been on my mind recently as I'm working to write a novel has to do with the difference between writing a novel and writing a short story. And you can start in the very obvious points. One is very short, and it should take you about 10 to 15 minutes to read, and the other is sort of a 3 to 4 day process, sometimes 4-month process if you're as slow of a reader as I was when I was a kid. They are similar in a lot of ways. They all have, both novels and short stories, you have to be very careful about the reader's experience. You have a beginning, middle, and an end. As the writer, you think of yourself as the host, bringing the reader sort of into the world of your fiction, whether or not that's a short story, whether or not that's a novel, even a poem. You work sort of thinking about plot, character, and setting, and your medium is language. The differences, though, for me, begin with intention. And when I think about short stories, I think that they exist exclusively sort of in the sphere of language, in the way that language can produce emotion. And when I think of my experience as a reader, what I get from long novels, and Moby Dick is my favorite book of all time, but I just read the Wolf Hall series. I like big, immersive novels, and the reason that I like them is because they take me away from my own life, and other characters' emotions become my own, and it becomes this wonderful habitation of a different world, and you get to stay there for a long time, for as long as the book lasts. You get to become somebody else, and it can be sort of wonderful. And when you finish the book, there's that sort of exhausting moment where you sort of exhale, and then you return back to your own life, a little bit changed, but basically sort of happy to have kind of experienced someone else's experience of the world. That's one wonderful immersive experience of art. And what I find with novels is that they generally introduce problems, and then what I like about the promise of a longer novel is that they're going to sort of bring those problems to a conclusion, to a head. Things will settle, the story will end, there'll be an epilogue, and things will come to a close. What I like about short stories, and what I like about writing short stories, is actually the opposite of what I like about novels. And when I think about what short stories do versus what novels do, is I feel like short stories are the perfect vehicles for asking questions that have no resolution at all. And in fact, one of the things that short stories do, the short stories that I love, are the short stories that begin and they sort of trick you and kind of lull you into the story. And they produce in you an emotion by sort of generating drama, and then they leave. And they bring you right to the climax of the story, right when you are incredibly invested emotionally into the story. And then they just sort of exit. And the question then is, that the story is asking you is, what would you do? How would you figure this out? And in that way, I find short stories to be much more sort of transformative. I feel like they sort of grab me, and then they leave before I'm ready for them to leave, and their after effect and their echo stays with me as a reader longer than novels do. And so when I think about writing short stories versus writing novels, when I'm writing a novel, I'm interested in having people sort of watch these characters almost as if it were a film and feel happy and complete when their story's at a close. With a short story, what I'm trying to do is use language to produce emotion, to move the emotion that I feel directly and sort of underground through language into the reader and leave them with that particular feeling. And then you almost just sort of back out of the room and leave that transference with the reader. And that only works if it's short. It's like a thunder, sort of a lightning bolt that just sort of comes in, leaves somebody changed, and then leaves them to kind of figure out how the story ought to end, or could end, or maybe should have ended.